Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the M Word. My name's Robin. I'm the Technical Director of Man and Machine here in the UK, and it's a pleasure to have you all with me for this week's episode. Those of you that are new, welcome. Thanks for joining. Those of us that have joined us before, welcome back, and thanks for continuing to support this session every Thursday. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and all the other social media platforms that we have pages or have presence on. This past few weeks we've done things a little bit differently, a little bit different to how we've done things previous weeks, in that we've been putting up polls on our LinkedIn page for you to all vote on to show us what you want to see. And this week, by a substantial margin, the winner is Freeform modeling inside of Fusion 360. Thanks for that, everyone. So we're going to be having a go with Freeform modeling today. If you've got any thoughts of what you would like me to model, throw it in the comments. My team suggested I should model a rocket. I'm not sure if they just want to watch me crash and burn because it'll end up looking like something else. Who knows? But if you've got some suggestions or anything that you want to see me model inside of Fusion, throw it into the comments. For those of you that are new to these sessions, the idea is to share a cup of tea or a coffee and have a bit of a virtual tea break, virtual coffee break in the afternoon on a Thursday to share a tip, a trick, or what's new inside of one of the many Autodesk tools across either the construction or the manufacturing industry for the solutions that we support and provide here in Man and Machine in the UK. Hence today we're looking at Fusion 360 and doing some freeform modeling. So if you haven't already, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us some feedback and hit the notification bell as well so that you can see when either we go live or when we put new content up. As well as this every Thursday, the rest of my team put up a whole load of content throughout the week on Inventor, AutoCAD, Revit, Enscape, 3ds Max, VRED, you name it, any of the tools and pieces of software that we support. So get on there, check it out, and if there's something you want to see, whether it's on one of these sessions on a Thursday or just as in general, let us know, give us some feedback, and don't hesitate to get in touch. So without further ado, let's just shrink myself down into the corner and share my screen. I've got Fusion open and we're going to do some freeform modeling using the T Spline tools. Now, whatever happens, don't think badly of me here. I'm going to try my best. I'm quite a fan of mesh modeling in this way. I've been using 3ds Max for a fair while just for fun more than anything else. So I do enjoy this polygonal freeform T Spline modeling, but I'm not the best at it. I'm not an artist. I'm certainly not good at designing anything out of clay or anything like that. So please be gentle with me, but hopefully you'll get a good understanding of the tools, get an appreciation of what they do, and actually they work really well now, and they're a pleasure to use inside of Fusion. So the idea behind these tools is to allow you to work with T-splines inside of Fusion. So we can start with a primitive object like a sphere or a cube or something like that, and we can push it and pull it around like if it's a piece of Play-Doh or a piece of clay or something like that to make a shape. And actually the limits or the possibilities are endless, to be honest with you, because it's all down to what you want to model and how you want to model it. We've got 25 minutes to go through this today, so maybe we'll look at a couple of different examples, but we'll focus on just modeling parts. I'm not really focused on this is something that I want to manufacture, whether it's a 3D print or something like that. So it's certainly not going to be the cleanest model, but again, the idea is it will get you a good look at the tools. So inside of Fusion, from my design interface, just over on the right hand side here, I've got some mesh tools and I've got Create Form. So I'm going to choose Create Form, and that takes me into a separate Form submenu on the ribbon here. I can create form from a sketch if I want to, or I've got some primitives. So I've got a box, I've got a plane, I've got a cylinder, I've got a sphere, and I've also got a face as well. And I can choose which one of those that I want to start from. And typically you want to try and pick something that's specific to what it is that you're trying to model. So maybe it's quite cold and snowy outside for some of you today. If you wanted to model a snowman, maybe you would start with a sphere, play with that a little bit, then add another sphere, play with that a little bit, join them together, so on and so forth. if I was modeling something like this lovely 3D Connection CAD mouse that I've got here, I would probably start with a box and model using that box as a base. So try and start with something that kind of makes sense, and then there are a whole plethora of different modification tools to allow you to work symmetrically, non-symmetrically, and a whole raft of different ways. So let's start by trying to model up a rocket. So this was one that's from my team. So we're going to try and model up a very cartoony, simple looking rocket. And we're going to start with a cylinder. So I want something that's cylindrical in shape, some fins coming out of the bottom, and a nice point on top. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and grab the cylinder, and then Fusion's asking me where I want that cylinder to be based. So what work plane do we want that to be based on? I want to base it on the, let's say, the top bottom work plane here. So I'm going to click on that work plane, and then I need to define a base point or a center point. So I'm going to pick up the very center of my origin there and click my mouse. We're then dragging out to define a diameter. So we need to choose what size of circle or cylinder eventually we want to draw, and this will be based on the diameter. So in here, I'm just doing everything by eye, so I'm not really set to a given size. I certainly don't want to do a full scaled one, so maybe let's go for a toy rocket, and I'll just round this up to about 100 mil and press enter. What this will do is it will place down this cylinder, okay? And you can see the cylinder's been split into different subfaces and sizes, okay? I've actually missed a step there at the end because I pressed enter, so let me just go through that again. Place down my cylinder. When you place down your cylinder, before you press enter, just make sure you check these settings on the back here, because this will choose how you want the cylinder to work and how you want the cylinder to look. So you can control with your mouse using these arrows to make this thing bigger, change the diameter that you originally specified, and you can also come in and visually just change the amount of facets that you want around the outside. So how many polygons you want the circumference of this circle to be split into, and also the same from a height perspective as well. And we can tweak and change these on the right hand side using the dialog. So I can change my height to something like 200 or so. I can say that I want to have 16 faces around the outside. For this example is absolutely fine. I want to have a diameter of about 100. I want 5 height faces, and we just confirm how we want this to work. I'm not going to turn on any symmetry for this first example. I'm quite happy with things as they are. And with that cylinder created, I go ahead and press OK. Now what we're left with is all of these individual faces, edges, the vertex points that connects them all together. And each one of those can be twisted and turned and extruded and rotated and modified to create a shape. Literally imagine that this is a bit of clay and I'm poking it and prodding it and pulling it around and smoothing it off to get the shape that I desire. So if we're going for something that represents a rocket, we're going to come in and make some tweaks to perhaps make some pointy fins that come out the side. Maybe we'll do 4 of those, and then we'll have something that resembles a bit of a point on the end. So at the moment it looks a little bit like one of the SpaceX rockets, but let's just go and start selecting some things. So we're going to start off by selecting this face. With that face selected, we're going to come and look at the modify tools, and we've got loads of them. Okay, we're not going to touch all of these today because there's just too many to choose from, but we've got a load of different tools that allow us to work. I'm just going to choose the simple edit form just by clicking this up here, which gives me a move, a scale, and a rotation gizmo, that's these things here, on my interface that I can use. And as I said, I can pull, I can push, and I can rotate these as I see fit. And what you can see that's happening in the background is my T splines, my form, is twisting and shaping and moving based on those modifications. Okay, so everything that you do starts warping and controlling. But as well as warping and controlling this, we can also come in and start adding to it. So if I just move these, it will sort of stretch the material. I'm just going to stretch this by about 10 millimeters to show that I can be quite specific. But then if I hold down my Alt key on my keyboard, ALT, and pull that out, it will start giving me an extrusion. It will give me a new face. So I can pull that out, and again, I can be doing this by eye, or I can type in a specific distance. So let's go for about 50 millimeters. And that will extrude that out about 50 mil. As well as extruding it, maybe I want to rotate it out a little bit, and maybe I also want to scale the thing upwards. So I'm just hovering over the different aspects and points of this gizmo to grab this one here, and I'm just going to make it a little bit wider, so I want it to come out quite wide. From there, I'm going to hold down Alt again and pull out some more. I'm going to rotate quite far round, and this time scale it down. So I'm going to try and get something that's almost, turning the corner, so to speak. And then I'm going to grab this face and move it upwards a little bit. And then grab these two faces, hold down Alt and extrude them downwards. And end up with something that looks a little bit like that. A bit precarious there for a few minutes, but I think we've saved it. So we've got something that looks like the fin of a rocket. The shape's not perfect, but it will do for now. The key here is once that shape's on there, we can start manipulating this. So I can bring this up and inwards a little bit to maybe make more of a point here. Okay, and we can control this any way that we see fit. So if we wanted to make it a little bit fatter, we could set the side ones and pull it out, so on and so forth. You get the general idea. But I'm quite happy with that kind of shape. I can then go and do the same thing on the other side, for example. So I can grab one maybe here, and I can do the same thing. So I can say, hold down my, pull it out about 10 mil. Sorry, minus 10 mil, we went for there. There we go, minus 10 mil, hit enter, and then we're going to go in and do the same thing, pull it out with Alt held down, and I'm just going to eyeball it this time. I'm not going to match them the same. Pulled it out a little bit, moved it around a little bit, pulled it out a little bit more. We came downwards, downwards, maybe a bit of rotation, inwards, scale it down a little bit. And I'm basically just, again, doing this by eye to create the same kind of shape. We can come and look at this from the side if we want to as we're going through. And just modify the shape ever so slightly. I'm not going to be able to get it perfect. I should have put on some symmetry, but hey ho, it looks okay. Let's grab these top two, make it a little bit fat. Make it a little bit fatter here using the top ones. Let's modify it round and pull that out. So on and so forth. Let's go ahead and do the same thing on this side. Let's pull it out by our 10 mil again at the start. Let's then modify it and pull it out by about 50 it was. Remember to hold down Alt, Robin, that would be good. Hold down Alt, there we go, pull it out to the side. Again, I'm just going to use my left view just to sort of eyeball this. I should have turned on symmetry. I'll use an example with the symmetry on in a second. Down and twist a little bit, come out a little bit more, down, twist, inwards, scale it down. Lovely, and we've got something that's representing three fins. From there, I can basically start building this thing up. So I can go ahead and select all of these components that build up the top perimeter, if you like, of this shape, and we can then extrude those up and bring those in to a point. So we're going to come and select all of these around the outside, zoom out a little bit, hold down Alt, go upwards, and then I can basically grab them and scale them in. My eyes are terrible today. There we go. Scale them in this way, scale them in this way, and I can basically start creating this kind of point shape. I can then start patching holes. I've come to the conclusion this looks absolutely terrible, so I'm going to revert to a different example. But you get the basics of what we're trying to do. We're pushing and pulling components to make a shape. Let's create a different model that looks a little bit better. That was terrible. Let's create a form. Let's go ahead and create a box. I'm going to put a box down, starting at the center, and I'm going to pull that out so it's kind of rectangular in shape. Again, I'm not too fussed on the size. Something that looks a little bit like that will be fine. And then with this shape, I want it to be maybe a little bit higher off the bat, a little bit skinnier off the bat, like so. But I certainly want some more faces. So let's have a few more width faces here and then a few more height faces as well. Something that looks like that. 3 of those would be perfect. And then once I've got this sort of shape, I'm going to turn on symmetry. I could have done it when I created it, but I'm going to turn on symmetrical constraints and mirror what's going on. So everything that I do is going to copy on the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and select symmetry, and then I'm going to go and choose where I want my symmetry to be. So I'm going to grab this face, and it picks a symmetrical axis around the outside of this component. What that means is if I come and grab this and move it, you see it does the same thing on the other side. So with these selected, what I'm going to do is grab these three faces, hold down Control when you're selecting to select multiple, and then I'm going to move them out ever so slightly. Okay, just doing it by eye, so something that's about 20 mil in this example, to give me a bit of shape. I'm then going to hold down Alt and pull out further. Okay, so let's go to about 60 mil. From there, I'm going to move backwards a little bit, maybe move them down a little bit, something that looks like that. Perfect. Hold down Alt again, bring them out, maybe scale them in a little bit, bring them down a little bit more, maybe bring them out a little bit more, and then hold down Alt again, bring them out, make them skinnier, make them scaled in a little bit. Look at this from the front, and then maybe say that we want to scale that up. Let's look at this from the top, generally get the kind of shape that we're after, which is not that. We can window select and we can move. So we're going to bring the whole thing forward, grab these ones, bring them backwards. Looks a bit like an Avro bomber from the top. Classic aeroplane for anyone in the know. And we've got something that represents two wings. What we're going to do then is grab this one and this one at the back with Control. We're going to hold down Alt and extrude those upwards, move them backwards, select this one, move it upwards, and we've got something that represents a tail fin. Why didn't I do this first? Why did I try Rocket? Rocket was never going to work. So we've got something that's representing a tail fin. Let's then go and grab these three or six faces at the front here and extrude them out once, bit smaller, bit smaller. My apologies, my eyes are not working today. There we go, bit smaller. Alt and drag them out again, bit smaller, and one more. Yeah, we'll go one more. And a little bit further, and we've got something that's starting to represent the nose of a jet fighter, something like that. Let's come round and go in from the side. Yeah, something that looks like that, pretty good. And then we want a cockpit, so let's grab this one, this one, and this one. Let's hold down Alt, and maybe we'll just move it up a little bit first, add a bit of thickness. Alt, extrude. Maybe I'm going to grab these ones and just pull them to the side a little bit to make it a bit fatter. Let's grab these ones and pull it up a little bit to make it a bit steeper. Grab this edge, pull it down. I'm basically doing this all by eye. I'm kind of just making it up as I go along to a certain degree. But actually, if you pick a shape that isn't a rocket, you can quite quickly get something that starts to look quite nice. Again, I'm not focused on how makeable this thing is, but clearly it looks a little bit like a plane, looks a bit like a jet fighter, it looks quite good. If I grab these ones, pull them out a bit, then extrude them out with Alt. When I've got a face, I can also create holes. So when you extrude, at the moment I'm only extruding outwards, so whenever I extrude I'm adding material. As well as adding material, we can also take material away. So I can take these two bits here, for example, these two faces, and I can turn them into vents, for example. So if I grab this one and this one, hold down Alt and pull them inwards, it's going to create extrusions. It's taking material away, so it's going to create a cut where those components are. So let's come in and make that smaller, and we've got something that's representing now a bit of an air intake or something like that. Maybe we're just going to come inwards a little bit, something like that. Great. We can do the same thing on the other side for maybe to represent the thruster here. Let's have a big thruster at the back. So let's maybe come out a little bit and then we need to expand this quite significantly, like so. And then we hold down Alt and extrude it in the other way. Something that looks a bit like that. Pretty good. And then what else shall we do to tidy this up? I mean, I'm pretty happy with that, to be honest, for 5 minutes work. Looks a lot better than the first example. But we can go ahead and quite quickly create something that looks pretty good pretty easily. We can also do things with multiple shapes. So for any of our younger viewers out there, if you're wanting to model up something a little bit different, we could grab a ball, choose our base plane, our base point, and then we can start modeling up these quad balls. So let's go ahead and model up a ball that looks a little bit like that. Let's then say that we want to add a second quad ball. I'm going to place it on the same plane, same point, and make it a little bit smaller. And then what you basically get is with those quad balls, they're different bodies. Okay, so I'm going to grab this second one and just move it upwards as one lump. And I'm going to start pulling it onto this one here. Okay, so I can start grabbing it and pulling it on. I made it a little bit too big, so let's just scale it down a little bit using the corners here. Perfect, that's pretty good. Maybe move it forwards a little bit. Great. And from here, I can start tweaking. So let's go and grab my modify. Okay, grab modify. Let's grab, where are my faces gone? Where's my faces? Why can I not select my faces? I want my faces, please. Face. Let's go and grab edges. Or just do anything. All, there we go. Let's grab this one. Let's turn on symmetry there and there. Perfect. Okay. Let's grab this face here, or this edge. Let's modify it. Vertex. Let's hold down Alt. Let's pull it upwards and outwards, and the same again. Hold down Alt, upwards and outwards. Not quite the shape I was going to, but pretty good. Let's grab this one, hold down Alt and extrude it outwards a little bit and then inwards a little bit. Great. Let's create an extrusion on this one. Outwards a little bit and then inwards a little bit. This was not going the way I thought it was going to go. This was meant to be Grogu, but it's actually turning into a bit of a mess. We'll pretend. We'll pretend that looks like ears and eyes. Maybe I'll give up and go back to the plane. The plane looks better. We'll do that. We'll give up. We won't try and model Grogu. That's not going to work. Not with my skills anyway. So once you've got something that's representing what you're after, again, the amount of tools that you've got here is quite significant. I've just used edit form. Once you've got something, you can start to work with the way that that's put together and the way that it's smoothed. So if I wanted to, under your modify tools at the top here, we can come in and, where's the tools now? Can't find it. There is a tool somewhere that allows me to turn off. There we go. If we go to display mode, we can turn it into a more blocky box display. What that allows us to do is further modify things in a way that might be easier to interpret the shape. So if I wanted a really sharp triangle on here, for example, we could use this kind of box modification. And then you use our modify tools in there to get the kind of sharp edge that we wanted to get. And then we could say, okay, and turn it back into a more smooth mode, and you get that kind of shape that you're after. So you've got a load of different tools that allow you to do a number of things. We can bevel edges to be a bit more specific, we can smooth more and smooth less, and really go to the nth degree with regards to how this component is going to look and work inside of our model. Again, I'm quite happy with what I've done here, so I'm not going to change it much more than what we've got already. But T Spline modeling in Fusion, we can model something up using a variety of tools and get something that looks quite nice. If we finish form, what we're basically left with is something that didn't do what I expected it to do. I've probably put on too many. Where have you gone? Undo, undo. It's probably that mess that I made on the front. Yeah, it was. Let's undo and finish form. Return, undo. Doesn't like these faces, they're too close together here, so I'm going to pull them out ever so slightly. Try and get it to come out of the form. There we go. So when it comes out the form, it tries to turn this into a mesh. If you've got things like self-intersection or overlapping, I had those two faces too close and curved next to each other there, so they'd have been overlapping or self-intersecting. We basically end up with a standard body like we have in Fusion. That body can then be used for anything else. So should I want to, I can start using this body for other bits and pieces. So I want to cut some hole through the end here. Maybe this is going to be a key ring. We can do that. So I'm going to say construct, do an offset plane. Let's use my origin plane here, an offset X amount. That'll do for the purpose of this. Let's create a sketch on that plane. Let's put a hole just here, 22 millimeters. Finish. Let's grab a push and pull or extrude, doesn't really matter. Grab that, bring it all the way through as a cut, hit OK, and this will go and cut that geometry. So although it's a solid, it will basically turn it into geometry that we can work with. I can then place a fillet on there. And if I wanted to go ahead and 3D print this, we just use the standard functionality that you have inside of Fusion, or maybe the extension functionality, to come and prepare this for 3D printing and get that 3D printed. And really, that's kind of all I wanted to show. So a bit of a mess at times, but actually we've ended up with a pretty good shape. Let's go back to that one. So yeah, hopefully that's been useful, a little bit of fun today, a nice topic to use. Again, keep an eye on our social media because, especially on LinkedIn, we're now putting a vote up every Monday to give you a chance to vote for what you want to see on a Thursday. Again, thank you for the vote today. A bit of a tricky one for me, but we got there in the end. We got something that looks pretty good. But obviously, freeform modeling now drops off the list, and we've got to think of something else to put onto that list so that you can vote on LinkedIn on Monday. So for next week, something to think about over the weekend and vote on Monday, we're going to have frame generator inside of Autodesk Inventor, so learn how to place frames in Inventor Professional. We're going to have design options in Autodesk Revit. We'll probably include phasing on that as well, so learn how to use the phasing tools inside of Revit and how to use design options inside of Revit. That will be a really useful one for anyone in the construction space. Let's have, I'm trying to think of what else we had on there this week. Let me just go and have a quick look now because I can't remember. I'm going to thank you for the messages, those people that have sent me messages of rockets. We're going to have presentation files in Inventor. So IPN files in Inventor which allow you to explode your components, your assemblies. So we'll do presentation files in Autodesk Inventor. And another one for Revit. Let's think of a different one. It's been a while since we've done Enscape, so we could do Enscape. Maybe let me know if that's a nice one to have, or Twinmotion actually. So with Revit licenses now, you get access to Twinmotion, so that's a really good one to do. We could take you through how to send a model from Revit into Twinmotion and get it rendered up. I have no preference, but we'll put the vote up on Monday. Keep an eye out on the social channels, give us a vote. I hope that's been somewhat useful today, a little bit of fun. We'll forget the rocket example. The plane looks great. I like that. Maybe I'll go and print that up now. That'd be quite cool. But thank you very much for joining, and we'll catch you at the same time next week to take a look at another tip, trick, or workflow inside one of the Autodesk tools. Until then, take care, and I'll see you soon. Thanks now. Bye-bye.